Comcast, I believe, and other internet providers already have the wiring in that area to provide their services. Now, some utilities, such as the telephone company and the power distribution companies, are not allowed to prevent competitors from using their distribution system. Do you suppose that something could be done by law, by the City Council, to require Comcast to give Burlington Telecom access to their distribution network?
I don't know. When you start talking about the statute, that's a little bit beyond me right now. But I think it's something to look into. I think that when you look at the utilities, so like electricity, there is a sharing of the wires, or else you'd have hundreds of electric poles going around because they're different electric companies. So I'm assuming that there is some way to share that infrastructure, and I can understand why Comcast, as a for-profit company, wouldn't really want to share that with a company that's selling their internet service at a lower price. So, I'm not sure how you kind of work around that, but obviously if there's a way to share the infrastructure, that makes some sense. I know with broadband that it is a pipe, and so it might make sense actually for Burlington Telecom to have its own pipe, because as you have more people buying the internet service, you're going to have less of that pipeline available to people, and so that can slow things down. So and I don't know all of the particulars around that, but I think that it might make sense for Burlington Telecom to have its own infrastructure anyway. But whatever it takes, I think we need to do it.
Burlington is one of the few cities which have are in the lead at creating publicly owned utilities. For example, the Burlington Electric Company is publicly owned, unlike many cities. Do you suppose that the internet service could be treated as a public utility and made free to everybody as an implementation of progressive values?
Well, I don't know how we could do it and have it be free to people, but I do think that there's probably a way to do it that is maybe based on income. I mean, that seems like that would be the first way to go towards progressive values. And that has a lot of complications, I'm sure. But I think that probably if we're trying to be as innovative as possible, there are ways to get around the issues that would come up. I know that even though Burlington Electric is publicly owned, it isn't free to people. So I think there are ways to make sure that it runs efficiently. And obviously Burlington Electric is cheaper than anywhere else in the state. And I felt that firsthand moving from rural Vermont to the city, because you definitely see a decrease in your bills each month when you have Burlington Electric versus one of the others outside of Burlington. So we're doing a good job at offering a service at a much lower price than the market is offering, and so I think we should be doing that the best we can with Burlington Telecom, and I think already we are. I have internet for $17 in my house, broadband internet, and that's a great price. So anything we can do to make it affordable to people and to get it out to folks, and if that means looking at some income-based stuff, I'm definitely interested in that.
The number of immigrants in Burlington has been increasing. They are not allowed to vote in local elections, even though they are here legally. Would you support a bill to allow legal immigrants to vote in local elections?
Yes. I think that people who live in the city should be able to participate in their local government, and I think that there are ways to do that aren't always by voting, and I would hope that people would get involved in ways that aren't just by thinking that going and voting is the best way to be involved, because I don't think that's true. I think that the people's power is by being involved in lots of stuff that's going on, and Howard Zinn talks about this in amazing ways, and that guy is a real, I really am glad for his writing. So yes, I think that it's important to have people be able to participate in local elections and local government that aren't necessarily legally able to vote in federal elections, but I also think that we need to be available. I think we need to be a part of the government in other ways, not just by voting.
I've lived in Europe, in France and Sweden, and in many parts of Europe, Someone lives in a city, even though they're not a citizen of that country, they can vote in the local elections. Now, this is fair because they're living only in that city. They're not living in their home city, and so they're not going to vote somewhere else. They're just voting where they live. And they can't vote in the national election, but they can vote by absentee ballot in their home national elections. I know some professors at UVM, which have come here for their jobs, and they have children in the schools here in Burlington, and it takes about 7 years, 5 years officially to become a citizen, and then by the time you put in your application and get it approved, it's another 2 years. In 7 years, the children can move from kindergarten up through into high school, and it's only fair, I think, that they should be allowed to vote in the Burlington elections, especially for the school board, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think that there are ways for people to be involved that they're not precluded from. So that means going to a school board meeting and speaking at open comment. Every single school board meeting, there is time at the beginning for people to go and make comments and to ask for certain things to happen. You're not precluded from working together with your neighbors to make something happen. And I will tell you that even Burlington, the biggest city in Vermont, there is still the opportunity for people to get together and work together to make stuff happen. And I'll give you an example. 2 years ago now, maybe it was a year ago, we started to hear from a parent in Ward 5 that she thought that foreign languages should be offered in the elementary school. She happened to be also a friend of mine. I worked with her, and she went to the PTOs around the state. Around the city. She talked to other parents, and while she could also legally vote for the school board and for the school budget, she also got together a group of her neighbors, and they came to the school board and said, we want this. We've talked to lots of people who also want this. This is where a petition drive is a great tool. And now there's foreign language in the elementary schools. And it's not just because somebody came and asked for that. It's because people came, they had good information about what this does educationally for people in their long term. So what we're doing is building a basis for good education for our children, and a lot of other things. And so that was something that happened on a very small scale, and anybody could have participated in that movement. And I would encourage people to figure out what they want from their city and start out asking for it.